Hello and welcome to the Right Click Save podcast. I'm your host Calcio, joined as always by my fellow host Jimmy T.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're putting out weekly content about all the biggest issues in the NFT space at the moment. Today we're going to be tackling buying blue chips in the bear market and also the Ethereum merge.
So I went on to Twitter today and I put out 3 polls, Jimmy, because I'm really interested to see the reaction that people have in this market to buying those blue chips. Because thinking back to this time last year, if I had told you that you could buy certain things at certain prices, or even just 6 months ago, I feel like the reaction would be massively different to what I received.
Yeah, I did vote on these polls, but I was like the first person to vote on them, so I don't know what the final outcome is. But it's a really interesting subject because, you know, buying NFTs in the market when it's down is always a tough psychological thing, but often the best time to buy.
If we think about like most investments, crypto specifically, that's the classic, isn't it? You want to buy low, sell high. No shit, it's obvious.
Yeah.
So the first question I actually asked was, which is the better buy right now? And I gave 2 options because there were 2 that I was kind of deliberating. Buying another Doodle at $15,000, buying a Mutant Ape Yacht Club at $21,000, or buying neither. What do you think the percentages were for the 3?
Oh, well, I think with your audience is mostly Doodle related, I'd say, on Twitter. So I'm going to say Doodles probably was the runner with probably around, I don't know, 50% of the votes, maybe?
It's a pretty good guess, yeah.
Then Mutants probably next. I don't know, the market's really bearish at the moment, so I don't know if people are saying that they don't want to buy. I mean, as I've always said, often when people say don't buy, it's the best time to buy. But I'm going to say people were saying don't buy.
Yep. So it was Doodles 55%. Neither was 32, and Mutants was 13. Now, like you said...
Oh, wow. Okay, that's quite low. 13. It's a lot lower than I thought.
Doodles is my audience, and they've just had their announcement of their huge fundraise, which has had mixed reactions. Why do you think, though, people... Because 32% is still... That's a third of people that chose to vote. That's lower, I guess, than I thought.
That is one of the most bullish signs I've heard this week. In my opinion, honestly, the best time to counter trade the market is not financial advice, but counter trading the market is often a very good way to go. As a lot of people were saying, 99% of people are going to lose money trading NFTs. So counter trade the sentiment.
Second question I asked was super simple. You can now pick up Bored Ape Yacht Club on the floor for less than $120,000. Now, bearing in mind they peaked at, I'm pretty sure, well over with the claim value and stuff like that, 400-500K, literally back in March.
Yeah.
Is it good or bad value to now be able to buy into the biggest ecosystem at the top level of that ecosystem, yes or no?
It's hard to say if it's like good value because you're talking about $120,000 on a JPEG, which doesn't really give you much utility apart from being part of an exclusive club and some ApeCoin stuff and a video game. But you know, most games, the AAA games, you can play. They cost what, $40-50. So spending 120 grand is to stay as simple. If you can afford it, go for it. If you've got that kind of margin in your investment portfolio and in your risk managing, then yeah. Absolutely, it's a big blue chip NFT project. I'm thinking of Bored Apes as the Bitcoin of NFTs. So when the market picks back up, they often don't look like the smartest investment. You're not going to get the biggest gains, but often they're the safest havens. So if you still want to invest in NFTs and you've got the money to do so, the blue chips are a really good choice.
It was really close, to be fair. It was 49% said yes, it was good value, and 51% said no, that's bad value. And I think, again, these polls are always really subjective. You have no idea who's voting on them. You don't know if the people that did vote can even afford to consider it. So everyone's perspective is different. I think the biggest thing we're trying to get across, though, is how I kind of agree with you that if you can afford it, if it's not going to affect you negatively and you're looking to invest somewhere, if you believe in the principles of what NFTs are and you're confident that this is technology that will still be here in 10, 20, 50, however many years' time, those core, and again, I mean core, really talking about things like punks, apes, maybe Doodles.
Yeah.
They can't be a bad buy, surely, long term.
Doodles has got to be in there, definitely.
The final question I asked was actually really simple as well, and that was that if you had the disposable funds to make an investment, again, didn't specify amounts, would you be looking at Web 2 or Web 3 assets? Would you be looking at Web 3 assets, yes or no?
Well, again, with your audience, they've got to say Web 3. Surely, landslide victory.
67% to 33%. And the consistent replies were very simple in that a lot of people believe they could make a better return somewhere else. And that's really interesting, because what was
Yeah.
most attractive, I think, to a lot of people about the NFT market was how easily they could put X amount of money in and double it, triple it, quadruple it. If you think back to this time last year, that poll would have been 95%, I'd guess.
Yeah. I wonder if you put meme stocks in as an option, how much of that 33% would have been taken by meme stocks?
It's true, because again, that's kind of the classic, isn't it, right? Like, how much money have people made off of shitcoins and everything like that? So I wonder how it would have been disparaged. So ultimately, what do we think about buying blue chip NFTs? If you can afford them, is it a yes? You should be looking at them if you're confident in the technology.
Yeah, again, it's about any investment portfolio is about risk management, and if you want a slightly less riskier NFT investment, a blue chip is a great way to go. Obviously, you've got to pay a lot more and put a lot more in. So obviously not financial advice, but I believe a blue chips are good investments in this current market.
Moving on from blue chip NFTs to something which is very relevant to the entire NFT ecosystem. A guest recently came on, or actually it was quite a while ago, and said his biggest problem with buying NFTs with ETH is the crisis that it causes with the environmental problems. The merge, which will have happened by the time this podcast has come out, should mitigate a large percentage of those problems. And I thought it was really important, like you said earlier, Jimmy, for us to chat to each other and the audience about how important the merge is.
Yeah, the merge, the triple halvening, the big news story in Ethereum of the decade, of Ethereum's lifetime. Really, it's the biggest thing that's happened to it. Now, slight caveat: what if? Obviously, we're recording this a few days before. What if the merge has failed, and they've had, that'd be bad.
It wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be the first time that dates had changed or gone wrong, because that's tech and that's crypto. I wondered really, though, do you think it will have a massive influence? Because we've been chatting about blue chips, right? Where predominantly that's what you want to be able to attain if you're an NFT collector on Ether. Do you think it's going to have much of an issue or much of a positive impact on the market, or do you think it really will just? I think
the main thing that's going to happen is we're going to enter a period of extreme volatility. So the merge is really, really good for the way that Ethereum works. The environmental issue is great, brand-wise, awesome. It's also known as the triple halvening because it's severely reducing the issuance of ETH during the process of consensus, of processing the blockchain. So it's really, really good for ETH as a technology, but we know this market, we know how heavily it's manipulated. We're sure that with the ETH run up against Bitcoin's dominance, that it's more than likely already priced in. People are also trying to make a play to earn more proof of work tokens because there's likely to be a fork, or there is going to be a fork, ETHW. So there's a lot of different factors at play. And also we've got some really extreme macro conditions with higher than expected inflation coming on and things like that. So volatility is my prediction. I would expect a run up slightly. Again, it's playing against the macros, a run up slightly leading up to the merge, but then a big sell off right before and just after the merge, and then a long period of recovery. But we could see ETH dump under 1,000. But if you look at Bitcoin's halvenings that it's done over the years, and this has been called the triple halvening because it's so much more severe than a normal Bitcoin halvening, the price action from that is just incredible, and you always get a really, really good sustained run of price after a halvening. So we could see big things. It's just so many different factors involved.
One thing I had been thinking about, and obviously this is completely retrospective, so whilst redundant, still quite interesting. If we had the merge this time last year, when we were still very much, ETH's going to get to 10k by the end of 2021, blah, blah, blah. Do you think it would have reached that 10k mark? And more importantly, do you think that the NFT market would have sustained a lot better?
So the way that ETH relates to the NFT market, or the price of ETH relates to the NFT market, is a long-standing debate. But one thing that is usually true is that if the price of Ether is jumping around, is really volatile, it's not normally good for NFTs because people like to try and ride those waves on Ether, and it's a lot less volatile and a lot less risky than NFTs. NFTs tend to take a bit of a hit in volatile markets and go through sustained hype cycles in kind of boring sideways markets.
I'm just really fascinated to see what kind of comes next, because that's been the biggest rebuttal to anything to do with Ether, and then in turn NFTs. You read any sort of article that's negative about the space, and it's always coupled with huge crisis problems come so that someone can be a monkey on Twitter, whatever it is. Do you think we'll start to see mainstream media try and find something else to moan about? Or...
Always. Always. Being in crypto for a while, you see the way that it's reported in mainstream media is just awful. It's the same way as the internet was reported sort of in the late 90s, when the newspapers were scared that the internet was going to make them obsolete, and they used to fight it all the way. And you get the same thing with crypto from every angle. And I think everyone should be able to see that the terrible biased reporting of the space is awful.
I'm really curious as well. We've obviously in the UK just had a albeit potentially temporary prime minister change, and I'm just curious to see, because years ago she really was very crypto positive. She said back in 2008, I mean, she said a lot of things that she doesn't agree with, but she was very positive about crypto. And I wonder whether or not the merge, touch wood, it happens successfully. I wonder whether it will enable a more likely positive outlook from governments, though, because if they do have it that they can use it as a feather in their cap to say this is a more eco-friendly option now.
Looking at the value of the pound at the moment, I think any incoming government is going to want to do anything they can to try and recover the economy. And as being a country that's always been well known for fintech, it's crypto is a definite synergy and somewhere that we could definitely excel. But I think we're going to have to do a lot more than that as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you even see like legalizing of cannabis within the next few years, just because they want to plug some money holes.
The euro is also, for the first time in God knows how many years, actually worth the same amount as the dollar, which is pretty mental to think. And I think that's really where I was trying to go with that question, because it seems so obvious to give us slightly nicer crypto tax laws. Again, not so that it's ridiculous, but if you look at how other countries like Portugal have 0% crypto tax, it's possible. Again, it's for a sustained period and all those kind of things. But I really feel like this is a great opportunity for governments, whether they do or not, but to reverse that crypto's terrible and to instead embrace it and use it as a way of really enabling a more proficient and prolonged journey with crypto for their nation.
Yeah, nice. I'll sign up.
Well, I'm glad you're all in for my Calcio Nation, where we have loads of free crypto, tax-free brilliance. On that note, Jimmy, I think it's good for us to wrap up. But just before we do go, we'd really appreciate if you could like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to, as I said, be covering, or Jimmy said, 2, 3, 4 major topics within the NFT space every Thursday. And we always do a big interview with a large, well-known name within the space every single week. So join us on the Right Click Save podcast for more fantastic, relevant, and enjoyable NFT and crypto content.